Lesson 6 from February 1 to 7, From Arrogance to Destruction. Wednesday, February 5. Weighed and found wanting. Question. Read Daniel chapter 5, verses 13 to 28. What is the reason Daniel gives for the soon-to-come demise of this king? Daniel 5, beginning at verse 13. Then Daniel was brought in before the king. The king spoke and said to Daniel, Are you that Daniel who is one of the captives from Judah, whom my father the king brought from Judah? I have heard of you, that the Spirit of God is in you, and that light and understanding and excellent wisdom are found in you. Now the wise men, the astrologers, have been brought in before me, that they should read this writing and make known to me its interpretation, but they could not give the interpretation of the thing. And I have heard of you, that you can give interpretations and explain enigmas. Now, if you can read the writing and make known to me its interpretation, you shall be clothed with purple and have a gold chain around your neck, and shall be the third ruler in the kingdom. Then Daniel answered and said before the king, Let your gifts be for yourself, and give your rewards to another. Yet I will read the writing to the king, and make known to him the interpretation. O king, the Most High God gave Nebuchadnezzar your father a kingdom and majesty, glory and honour, and because of the majesty that he gave him, all peoples, nations and languages trembled and feared before him. Whomever he wished he executed, whomever he wished he kept alive, whomever he wished he set up, and whomever he wished he put down. But when his heart was lifted up, and his spirit was hardened in pride, he was deposed from his kingly throne, and they took his glory from him. Then he was driven from the sons of men. His heart was made like the beasts, and his dwelling was with the wild donkeys. They fed him with grass like oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven, till he knew that the Most High God rules in the kingdom of men, and appoints over it whomever he chooses. But you, his son, Belshazzar, have not humbled your heart, although you knew all this, and you have lifted yourself up against the Lord of heaven. They have brought the vessels of his house before you, and you and your lords, your wives and your concubines, have drunk wine from them. And you have praised the gods of silver and gold, bronze and iron, wood and stone, which do not see or hear or know. And the God who holds your breath in his hands and owns all your ways, you have not glorified. Then the fingers of the hand were sent from him, and this writing was written. And this is the inscription that was written, Mene, Mene, Tekel, Upharsin. This is the interpretation of each word. Mene, God has numbered your kingdom and finished it. Tekel, you have been weighed in the balances and found wanting. Peres, your kingdom has been divided and given to the Medes and Persians. Forced by the circumstances, the king resorts to consulting Daniel, but he seems to do so with reluctance. This may tell more about the attitude of the king toward the God of Daniel than toward Daniel himself. In turn, Daniel's response to the king's offer of reward says a lot about Daniel's priority and character. It also is likely that Daniel, knowing the meaning of the mysterious words, realizes just how worthless the reward really is. Daniel then indicts the king on 3 counts. First, Belshazzar totally has ignored the experience of Nebuchadnezzar. Otherwise, he would have repented and humbled himself like his predecessor. Second, Belshazzar has used the temple vessels in order to drink wine and to praise his idols. Here Daniel mentions the 6 kinds of materials used to make idols in the same order noted previously. Third, the king has neglected to glorify God, and one who holds your breath in his hand and owns all your ways, as he says in Daniel 5:23. Having addressed the failures of the king, Daniel proceeds to the interpretation. Now we learn that the divine graffiti consists of 3 Aramaic verbs, with the first repeated. Their basic meaning should have been known to the king and his sages. Mene, counted, Tekel, weighed, and Peres, divided. With the Medo-Persian army at the gates of Babylon, the king and the sages must have suspected some ominous meaning in that writing. But the sages do not dare to say something unpleasant to the king. Only Daniel proves capable of decoding the actual message into a meaningful statement in order to convey its full meaning to Belshazzar. Mene, God has numbered your kingdom and finished it. Tekel, you have been weighed in the balances and found wanting. Perez, your kingdom has been divided and given to the Medes and Persians. That's Daniel 5, verses 26 to 28. Not exactly words of comfort and cheer. So to finish the day, judgment comes swiftly upon the king. How can we learn to trust God in cases in which, for the present, justice and judgment have not yet come? Let's look at Ecclesiastes 3, verse 17. I said in my heart, God shall judge the righteous and the wicked, for there is a time there for every purpose and for every work. And Ecclesiastes 8, verse 11, because the sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily, therefore the hearts of the sons of men is fully set in them to do evil. And Matthew 12, verse 36, but I say to you that for every idle word men shall speak, they will give account of it in the day of judgment. And Romans 14, verse 12, so then each of us shall give account of himself to God. This lesson was read by Dr. Percy Harrold for Christian Services for the Blind and Hearing Impaired, Christian Record Services for the Blind, the Sabbath School Department and Hope Channel. You can also listen on the official Sabbath School 4 app and the Apple iTunes app, Sabbath School with Percy Harrold. Remember, God is always faithful.